All right. It says we're live, but are we really live? Inquiring minds would like to know. I'm assuming that's a go. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and non binary, interplanetary, intergalactic time travelers. You know who you are, but we salute you even though we don't really know who you are. Do we ever really know who the time travelers are? Some dispute there's even any time travel. But I'm Oliver, and I'm in a bunker called Studio 72, although our time here in Bunker 72 is limited. Rents have gone up, and the new management is not working with people that have got medical issues. And I'm seeing eviction notices throughout all the halls, and there's 4 floors of halls. That's another video, and I'm talking with some attorneys. I think there's been some violations, so I don't want to get into it. If indeed that I can pick up some legal counsel. I don't think I can do it on my own. But what I want to talk to today is just my thoughts, not a deep dive, just my personal summary of the preliminary hearings that went on for a week. I got pulled in on them for a couple of days last week, and the only one I really missed, I just got fatigue. I had preliminary hearing. What's up, kitty? Up. She's trying to find a place to nap. The only one that I missed was I think it was day 4 or day 5. I think it was Friday. She wants to go in that closet. And I just had so much fatigue, man. It was like, oh, man. Oh, my goodness. But I did catch some clips on that one. And the DNA sample, hours and hours of that, I broke away and I came back and it was like the same. It was like watching fentanyl yoga. It was like watching a group of people doing Fenty folds in slow motion. It was just like no, DNA, multiple people DNA. It was just like, oh my goodness. So, but I would like to, and I think Candace is coming back on today, and she's been kind of teasing this been on vacation for a couple of weeks. She's kind of been teasing a little bit about that she's got some stuff to say, and I love listening to her. So let me start out by saying, Cheesy Man 21, good to see you. Thanks for coming down. I just want to start out by saying and just admitting my personal bias. Okay, I love Hello Kitty. All right, good to see you. I love Hello Kitty. My personal bias, because we've all got bias. I mean, we can't go into this saying we know what happened. We've got all the facts and we got all the data in this case, because there is too many unknown unknowns. I would even suggest that there's unknown unknowns. 3 unknowns. So it's like you could do the math on that. It's pretty intense, but my personal bias is that right out of the gate, Erica Kirk's behavior was a huge red flag. I recognize narcissists. I've had narcissists in my life. I've been involved. I've had lovers that were narcissists. And even worse, I come from a family of narcissists, from mothers, sisters, grandmothers. I mean, it's like, God, I've been exposed. I have narcissist fatigue from these encounters, but I recognize that. And then the TPUSA were all very suspicious, all of their actions. So I immediately had these kind of reservations. I just wasn't buying the official. It's now called FedSlop. All right, it's now called FedSlop. But I just had these issues with major beyond reasonable doubts about that core group. I mean, it was like where you had Erica in the sparkly Elvis Bojangles jumper suit and fireworks, and You see on my thumbnail is she's smiling just days after in a Zoom meeting, looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in merch sales coming in. The way she addressed that Zoom meeting, which was leaked, by the way, she didn't want that leaked. TPSU USA did not want that leaked. It's just so damn questionable. Now, the other strange thing, this is the very beginning, is I was having trouble wrapping my head around these trans, furry, autistic, gay/lover type of things. Late night. How are you from? Late night. Good to see you. I'm from Portland, Oregon. I'm on the West Coast here. But the cell, Erica Kirk in hours going into cells and marketing and then pretending she was grieving, which it was not grieving. I mean, you don't even have to have been in bed with a narcissist for a couple of years and that trauma of a girlfriend, lover, of a narcissist to even recognize that is not right. It's like not jiving. It's a huge red flag. But for me, sorry, back to that gay furry, they all just, he seemed like something wasn't right with it. Just wasn't professional enough. I'm like, are you telling me that this professional hit at this time with what should have been security and drones and blah, blah, blah? They love Grace. Hi, how are you? And like what you're talking about? Good to see you. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate that. Hit the like. I see several of you have done that. What I'm doing today is I'm just doing kind of a summary of the preliminary hearing. And I'm going into, I admit my bias of not believing Erica and issues with TPUSA. Their horrific behavior of attacking and calling all of us critical thinkers out there on X and in the social media a cult. Like Candace has to think for us. Candace has to tell us we're not intelligent enough to come up with our own debunking type of critical thinking analysis. Really turned us off. TPSU USA lost us. They lost America. In fact, I mean, if we have anything to say about it, there should be an investigation and indictments. That's how bad this misleadership has come from these people. Erica's a part of them. She calls them her family. So she has those marketing operatives around her throughout this whole thing, filming her with St. Charles, apparently, allegedly, St. Charles with orange makeup on his hands in the actual casket, laying there. And she's sobbing and breathing, and then she's like going down around his groin area, breathing on his groin. I mean, who the fuck thought that was a good idea? TPUSA marketing. Little Stacy Bojangles thought that was. She filmed it. Holy crap! Where's the family? It doesn't look like there really is a support family around Erica. So, that's really huge. But I had issues with the fact that these kind of like doped up, drugged out, I don't know, whatever. The other bias that happened was this video by a guy that goes by the handle Turkey Tom. Turkey Tom is on YouTube. His presentation, now it could have been totally fetty. I mean, Turkey Tom could be like right out of NSA playbook. I admit that. But his presentation, it created bias and prejudice for me. Far beyond Candace asking questions. Anything Candace presented was far more less influential to me than this Turkey Tom video. And I don't have a direct link, but he's on there. He's on YouTube. But Turkey Tom says that he hung out and partied. He didn't want to admit to doing drugs, but he said they were all talking about drugs. It kind of makes me think Turkey Tom might have been a part of that, that electric Kool-Aid kind of experimentation going on there at Lance Twiggs' condo, which granted, this Lance Twiggs, if he wasn't a honeypot, his nest, self-proclaimed nest of a honeypot was his condo. And he lured in through gaming chats. And that's, a big red flag, a big shout out to you gamers. Okay. you are targeted. It is a repeat over and over and over again. You see these highly susceptible, dealing with disabilities, young people, always the young guys, and almost always the reoccurring theme, incels. They're not getting tail, they're not getting booty. And so you've got this like reoccurring theme of these incels being honeypotted or trapped or set up or influenced, radicalized. That's the other word, radicalized, inside these chats. Whether it's Discord, it's often the gamers. And I don't know exactly what that is all about, because I'm not a gamer. We used to play like Nintendo. I mean, I'm Gen X. That just ages me. I'm not into the gaming scene, although there's plenty of middle-aged people that are into the gaming scene. Quiana, good to see you. Thanks for coming down. So I'm just sharing my thoughts on the Tyler Robinson situation and the thoughts of the hearing. I'm not doing a deep dive. I'm not doing any exhibit presentations. I'm doing this freestyle. I call it freestyle. I don't even have notes. I've got a computer on here, and it's got Harrison Smith of InfoWars in his serial killer glasses. It's on mute. So I don't even have notes. And I sound a lot more intelligent if I do have notes, but I like freestyle because I just kind of want to go with my general thoughts. Not scripted. It's just my idea. So this whole Lance Twiggs, which there isn't any real record of this Lance Twiggs existence. I mean, there is a little bit with the family. Apparently he came at a family member with a knife. So, I mean, Lance Twiggs looks like he was going by Luna, and this was before the preliminary hearing. We had this narrative crafted that Lance Twiggs was probably an incel as well, or maybe just a predator. He could have been a sexual deviant. I don't know, actually, but do we know? I don't know, but it looked like Lance Twiggs was the influence. It was spun. The narrative was spun that Lance Twiggs had seduced Tyler, which it came out Tyler was an incel. Tyler was a virgin. Never had a honey. Never had a short-term booty call. More or less a long-term to emotionally disturb him, except for Lance Twiggs. So what's going on there? What's a part of that? Is there something there? I mean, I felt like there always was. But the preliminary hearing brought in questions of this. It brought in some doubt. And but let me pause on before that testimony. So Lance Twiggs, with this Turkey Tom video, he goes through and describes this, that Twiggs refers to the living room as his nest. He shows pictures in the video of what looks like electronics and psychotic scribblings. I kind of recognize him from hallucinogenic experimentations, like when you're hallucinating and you have artist sketches. It looks like this. It definitely looked like there was some drug use, in my opinion, whatever combination. But this Turkey Tom in this video says, this person talking says, we hung out and they admitted to doing all kinds of drugs. In fact, he was trying to grow mushrooms, probably hallucinogenic mushrooms. He had all these little experimental Tupperware. Lance Twiggs, not Tyler. And Tyler in this video was alleged to have been the counselor, the shrink for Lance Twiggs having these mental psychotic breakdowns, sobbing, crying, all these different things. And they said they'd see Lance being rocked by Tyler Robinson on the couch in these, this is these magic crews. So there's all these little groups of probably operatives in several feds, if you ask me, just my intuition. That's just my feeling. These magic card games, this grooming that was happening probably was a little lair's nest of, I would think, assets. So Tyler Ladd, good to see you. Thanks for coming down. Do you think he just lost touch with reality? I think you can find murders across all ideologies. but there's clearly emotional dysregulation as a common thread, drug use, mental illness. Spot on, Tyler. It sounds like you've got some counseling background without telling me that you've got some counseling background. Spot on. And I have some psychology courses, not a psychologist certified, but I've studied that, and I've actually worked with at-risk teens, at-risk youth 20 years ago. So it wasn't like yesterday, Dad. But 20 years ago, for several years, I worked downtown with at-risk in, first it was shelters, and then it was in daytime support groups. And so I was exposed to a lot of the youth heavy drug use. I saw a lot of psychosis. I worked around that. And so I think you're spot on. Do you think he just lost touch with reality? Yes, for Lance Twiggs. Tyler, I'm not sure. It's so strange to me. The one thing that always, there's two red flags for me when I'm reading people's body language and reading somebody. I'm a really good read on people, but I make mistakes. I'm not always right. Sometimes people hide behind a sheath, a veneer, a facade so well that even me with a trained eye and I have some psychic intuitions, even I fail on reading. But there's two things that I look for. Number one, and this is my biggest pet peeve, people that smile all the time, like nonstop. And it doesn't have to be even like the Joker maniacal laughter. It's if they're smiling or smirking. Laughing too is a big one, but it's in that you can smile all the time and it almost, your inside is coming out and saying, I'm laughing. I'm the Joker inside. That to me indicates kind of a psychosis. I mean, how could you argue the Joker is not psychotic? You might argue, was it environmental factors or pre-existing conditions? Or did the Joker just snap? It might be a little bit all of it, right? But you can't deny that there's something clearly there's not right with the Joker. And so that's a huge flag to me. Now, with Tyler, Lance Twiggs in that interview, and Tyler, it's almost emotionless. You have this stoic. Now, granted, that's good legal advice counseling. The counselors will say, don't show too much expression. If you're laughing, it makes you look like you are not regretful or remorseful to somebody that thinks you did it. Or it gives the vibes that you got away with something. Like you think you're smarter than you really are and that you got away with something. And you saw a little bit of that when the first hearing of Tyler, he came in with a tie and it had pink and some light blue in the tie. And this was one of the triggers that triggered Alex Jones. In his analysis, he was like, oh my God, he's pro-trans. You can see he's a trans lunatic. He's wearing the trans flag on the tie. And I'm like, bro, it's got some pink in the tie. That's not a trans flag. Pink is kind of benevolent. It could be signaling. It actually is kind of a brilliant color to be on trial with because I'm neutral. I'm a feminine. I couldn't kill anybody. How could I shoot anybody? Look at me in my little girly pink tie. But I will acknowledge there was some light blue, and I will acknowledge I'm very familiar with the trans flag, the pink stripes and the light blue stripe. But I don't agree with Alex Jones' analysis on that. And he also was like, he's laughing, he's smirking. It was like, what I interpreted and read about, what he was smirking about is he was engaging with his attorney that the transport vehicle, whichever that high secure vehicle is, what do you call that? A SWAT or a CERT vehicle? I don't know. They're transporting him in something that, a nuclear bomb could go off and he would like walk out and be fine, right? That vehicle 2 times in a row had either hit a fender bender or almost been in a car crash. So, and I believe he was smirking like, somebody's they think it's an escape. Like there's a setup. They're going to crash into the vehicle and a whole team of totally psychotic trans with purple hair are going to pop out with high power and shoot their way into that vehicle and rescue their tranny boy. And that was my interpretation of that smirk. I did not see that of him as, I'm not picking on Alex Jones, but his bias and prejudice from day one about all these assumptions of these narratives that we were told, that, you know, he was psychotic because he was smirking. It was stated that there was a conversation with his legal counsel about the irony of multiple vehicle accidents, either fender benders or a near hit, from my interpretation of that. So take it for what you want. I mean, a psychotic person could smirk during trial. I mean, there's definitely nothing to be happy about being accused of this. But it's a very remarkable thing. Now, with Tyler Twiggs, Tyler Twiggs, I just meshed them, the two personalities. Speaking of that, with Lance Twiggs, which it's questionable if that's his real name. I'm beginning to wonder if Tyler Robinson, if he had other aliases too, because if you watch that interview, it's been edited and the clips do not show the beginning. The state is asking Lance Twiggs, do you know Matt? Lance doesn't correct him. He acknowledges the name Matt and says, yes, I know Matt. And then he asks another question about Matt. And, you know, you're going to tell me that the state prosecution is so incompetent? They could be. I mean, they got the car wrong. This evidence that they submitted, a Charger? It has two tailpipes, and Tyler's, I think it's his parents. Well, I think his mom's on the title. I'm not totally sure about if that's only his vehicle, but the one that he was driving is a solo exhaust, and then the lip on the front of the car. So the state prosecution, do they know that? Did they submit incompetent evidence because that's the only video they could get from a parking lot? Is that why it's blurry faced? It seemed more blurry than it should be with today's high-tech video. Maybe UVU's got budgets and they're low grain videos. I find that hard to believe, but okay. They got the Charger wrong. So are they getting the guy that they are indicting's name wrong? How would a prosecution F up that one? Asking, how does the state F up Tyler Robinson's name and call him Matt? And it's very weird. It's a weird glitch, and the state actually starts over, but the video is still rolling. And the state actually swears him in a second time. And the state, I think, claims there was like your mic's on, there was an echo, which you do kind of hear a weird like echoing of some kind. I mean, so that is valid, but why is he Matt? So then he comes back with the questions. It's Tyler. It's Tyler Robinson. He's now got the name right on the second take of the swearing. Now, riddle me that, Batman. Riddle me that, because that is very, very bizarre to me. So was he going by Matt? Is he a federal asset that goes by Matt? Is there a second name or a third name? Very common. It's not unusual for people. I mean, some people go, oh, that's very, very, nobody goes by different names. Yeah, actually, that's, to me, I don't see a lot of that. I mean, in the street lingo with at-risk youth, and I'm not saying they are, because it looks like they both came from pretty well-off families, affluent families. But everyone goes by different names. In fact, everyone goes by code names. People are named Ghost. You know, he doesn't go by Robert. He doesn't go by his real name because he's out doing things that they shouldn't do on the street life. So they go by Ghost. They go by Spidey. They go by this. You'll also see that in the crime world. That's very common with organized crime, mafia. It's not just because they want to have separate names. It's an alias to let people know who you are, your rank in whatever the mafia or whatever these organized clusters on the streets are. But it's also a code name, so they don't have their legal name to report you exactly. They can do a description and say, well, I think you went by Ghost, or Yeah, I don't know. That's very possible. Just because I have that background experience of that type of a dynamic, not the mafia part, but working with organized youth. I mean, don't misinterpret me. I'm not with the crime families, but I understand that. I've studied that, and I've worked with the youth. That's what they do. So, and again, what's the deal? I mean, are they both Fed assets? Were they both going into something? I've heard some early on, 10 months ago, there was a couple of independent journalists that were saying that there is a special program in UVU it's like Stanford program where you get the spooks come out of Stanford University. This whole MK Ultra thing comes out of Stanford. Have you ever heard that? If you haven't heard that, you're hearing it now. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Stanford specializes in spooks. And so there's some sort of a program, and there's some people saying, or at least I don't want to say his name because I don't know where he stands at. He's kind of been quiet here recently, those last couple months. I don't know what's going on with him, but I don't want to say his name because I don't want to speak for him or, indict him into something. But he was saying very clearly that there was this training that was going on, and that it's actually very common to recruit and bring in these young cadets. And he said point blank that Tyler was involved in that. And I was like, wow, okay. So that kind of brings a different dynamic to it, but it's believable for me. I mean, I know enough to know that kind of a thing is happening there. So, but with Lance Twiggs' testimony, first of all, it's absolutely absurd to me that I don't care that it was a preliminary hearing. When I posted this stuff on X, everyone was, people are just so rude, and I'm not sensitive to it because I just punch right back. People call me a dingbat or a stupid effer, and I mean, crazy. It's just nonstop abuse, verbal abuse from these Fed sloppers is what we call them. Fed slops is they're there to spin that narrative, protect any type of Israeli IDF, any type of operative influence, and it's always to muddy the water. That's why they viciously attacked Candace. She wasn't just asking questions; she was actually asking questions specifically involving Israeli type of intelligence and operatives. And so that to me is a telltale. Okay, it's a tell, meaning that it tells me, it's telling that they are on and treating her that way, treating all of us that way. Well, anybody, you don't even have to be famous like Candace. You could be an unknown like me, and viciously getting these attacks. Oh, it's just a preliminary. It's not the trial, you dumb dingbat fuck. Okay, first of all, boom, listen, douchebag. I'm very, very familiar that this is a preliminary hearing and not the trial. It doesn't matter to me because what happens to this preliminary hearings is very significant about what can or can't be used in the trial. And there's going to be much more stringent applications of hearsay. You cannot have someone write something and say, yeah, that's him. We used to get high and he told me he killed him, without them being in the court, without having statutory and constitutional rights for cross-examination. You have that right. When people come in and accuse you of something, you have that right. In Utah, it's in legal documentation. I don't know if they call it Article 7 or whatever it is in Utah. I was posting it all over X. The actual law that says you have a statutory and constitutional right to cross-examine whoever's submitting evidence and testifying against you, and their sources, the sources of the evidence. You have a right to have your defense cross-examine that. That's in the law, in all preliminary hearings. So Judge Graff was violating that over and over and over again. He took the knee and he bent to the state's hounding and to these other bizarre emotional asset attorneys that popped in and would do these like bizarre psyops on the judge, saying we're representing Erica Kirk and she's got a right to see all of this whatever bogus evidence you've got presented by unknown spooks out in some desert sagebrush of Utah, they got a right to all be presented and all be considered and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter if it was a jury, because that comes next. It wasn't a jury this time, but that comes next. And so if you're going to allow all that garbage to be presented, then the state in the trial can say, well, this was allowed there, then we're going to present this. And you'll have objections from the defense, and a good judge will say, sustained. Where is this person? So that forces, as the defense they made a motion. They said, we want to cross-examine Lance Twiggs. Bring him in and let him take the stand, as we see with the FBI investigators, as we see with all these other, the ballistics, the DNA specialists, all these people that took the stand and just droned on for hours and hours and hours. Judge Graff, that's his name, right? I think I got the name right. It's a new guy, came out of nowhere. I think he was a prosecutor at one time. Does he know what he's doing? I don't know. But what's really remarkable is that so many conservatives keep praising, like conservatives that are on more of a Candace critical thinking or questioning the Fed slop, not the Fed sloppers. Could be mixed reviews on these guys that they didn't think Judge Graff was being harsh enough and not admitting all this junk evidence. But that tainted the preliminary hearing for me, and it tainted it for a lot of people. These things, this video evidence of Lance Twiggs should never have been admissible without cross-examination. And the testimony, it's recorded, and then they went back and forth. It felt like an hour of, first of all, the judge denied the defense, and then to cross-examine, and then there was some other motion, or they went back and forth. Then the judge tried to cut the baby down the middle, lack of better metaphor, and split it and say, okay, all of this will be redacted. We're going to edit this out, but you can use this portion and this portion. You can submit that to the public, to the world, to the media, including the family. So there was this emotional asset attorney representing, I guess, Erica. It's not, I guess. That's who he said he was. He was there. He was a chess piece that was dropped into the courtroom. That guy never should have had any voice at all. I'm not saying that victims don't have a voice. They had nothing to present about evidence. There was some bizarre procedural issue. I don't even know how that glitch happened. It shouldn't have never have happened. It wouldn't happen in a trial. You don't get to have some random attorney come in and make this case but they did. And, I could be wrong on that. Maybe Utah does allow that in a trial. It doesn't normally work like that. Now, I'm not a licensed attorney, but I know enough of that. And then there was also a very strange attorney that was representing the media. So you had this, I've never heard of anything like that. Is that just a Utah thing? So you had this attorney that was representing the media and the media's right for full disclosure. So as the judge is trying to balance between the objections of constitutional rights of defense, between the state wanting to just throw all the spaghetti noodles up against the wall, in an effort to debunk the conspiracy. All the state did, all those preliminary hearings did, was create more questions and more doubt, especially about Lance Twiggs. That testimony from Lance Twiggs, outside of the statutory and constitutional violations of the defense rights, was totally bizarre. You had an emotionless, chomping gum. You see this long hair in a suit and tie. What is Lance Twiggs? If you have that lens from Turkey Tom of this Lance Twiggs emotional train wreck, strung out, doing these psychotic drug experiments or drug experiments in creating triggering psychosis, And apparently his testimony was is he helped out with electrical stuff or concrete stuff. I mean, it was just so damn strange. And that was Tyler Robinson's part of his background alibi or whatever. I don't know if you call it alibi, but is that he was a worker and his dad was a hard working man and was do these contract type things. So it's not exactly no crime, no criminal, no background. There was these issues with Lance Twiggs with this knife incident, attacking a family member or threatening a family member, and they were strict Mormons and he didn't like Mormons and he was rejecting his family, or they tossed him out, but yet they had enough money, wealthy family, to buy this condo or rent this condo space for him, for Lance Twiggs. Who knows? Where's all that money coming from? But he comes in this suit and tie with long hair. It looks like, something out of MTV, a music video, DJ or a what do you call that? Not a podcaster, but in the old days, they had a different name for it. It was just like a rock star, like dressed up a little bit. It didn't match. It felt totally an effort to paint this different picture of this Lance Twiggs, this what we were told was this gay trans furry lover. And I don't know if he was trying, but it's like down, his real deep voice, it's like there was no like, hi, my name's Luna, and I go by Luna, and I like to put on ballerina outfits and dance. We dance. Tyler and I dance around my little nest. Nothing like that. It was a total different painting of this persona that we had been told. So it created doubt for me that is there any trans connection to this at all? Because we had trans violence and trans assassinations. We had trans anarcho-communists all over the country last year around this time of this shooting that were calling on killing ICE, that were calling on assassinations, calling on all of this stuff. What was all that about? Was that real? I mean, it almost made me wonder, were they even really intimate, gay? I mean, Tyler's a incel virgin. What was, it's just like everything is kind of like, wait a minute. There was Turkey Tom even says that some of these magic, they were playing these weird magic shit. They'd come over to the house and drink and hang out. That they noticed that Luna, started going by Luna, was super hypersensitive about mispronouns and transgender talk. This is Turkey Tom's not really testimony, but YouTube video. It wasn't submitted as testimony. I consider it testimony. And it seemed valid to me. Now, again, I might have been duped, but it felt like to me that it was unbiased and it was like a third-party witness of somebody that was hanging out with them. Said that Lance Twiggs, aka Luna, was doing these black market hormonal treatment, replacement treatment, HRTs, and that Luna was growing breasts. So Luna had visibly, this is in the YouTube video, was visibly growing breasts. And anybody that knows anything about that hormone treatment, the replacement treatment, and I'm not a doctor, but the hormones make people completely fucking psychotic. I mean, you think about your girlfriend or your wife when it has severe PMS, has severe, like a heavy menstrual bleeder. I've had several girlfriends like this, and they go completely psychotic and insane for a few days before the menstruation, and then sometimes during that, and then they seem to kind of come back. You're like, there's like following this cycle, they kind of like regain their composure, and it's kind of like, it's hormones. Well, they inject these hormones that create that temporary psychosis with our loved ones. And then it's black market. So you have somebody there's no medical doctor that's actually taking blood sample work. When you're buying this shit black market and you're taking probably twice or who knows, 10 times the dose, 100 times the recommended dose, there's no medical supervision. And that will make someone cry and may, need to be rocked and cuddled. Now, that could have been an emotional manipulation on Lance Twiggs. I mean, that's a classic thing for a girlfriend to do. It's like, help me, oh great white knight, I'm in distress. And they'll cry because they want the attention. They want you to hold them. They want you to be the man. And of course, that's what we do. It's our girlfriend. We're going to comfort them, unless you're a total bonehead, which there is plenty of fucking bonehead men out there. You react, and you do that because you care about them or you want further relationships with them. That's what you do. If you don't know that, then you're a total fucking dumb fuck. Probably an incel, unfortunately, no offense, but you don't know how to get the ladies. Come in there, and I'm living evidence. I'm an average looking dude. Some would argue I'm ugly. I'm an average looking dude, and nothing like super fucking awesome about me. I have had way more than my fair share of girlfriends, and it's because I know how to listen, and I know how to read through things. I know how to not argue about them changing their mind, because I've been through that. That creates an explosive argument, especially when they're emotionally charged in PMS or literally menstruating. You are an absolute fool to start engaging in a deep argument, unless you're just trying to run her out and get rid of her. So now I say all that. I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to be a greasy fuck either. It's like I'm just saying that there's women are looking for certain things. They want to trust. They want to trust a man. He doesn't need to be super macho and super good looking. I can only imagine that that's a similar thing in the trans community, right? And maybe even more so because they're in this vulnerable position, and there's so far and few of other trans furry potential lovers and friends for them. So I could see that being a manipulation, but I also, my gut and my intuition says, no, this Lance Twiggs person, and I'm believing Turkey Tom video. This is all Turkey Tom. This is the YouTube video that lays out third-party witness. This Lance Twiggs was having, Luna was having serious breakdowns, and Tyler was accommodating and acting as this rational common sense. These third-party perspectives were saying Tyler was not the crazy maniac. He was not the shooter. That was Lance Twiggs. Lance Twiggs with the knife attacking, threatening family members. That's Lance Twiggs, who I believe is some sort of an operative. I don't know if he just turned state witness in with the immunity, and we obviously know there was immunity right away. How long before this situation went down in UVU was Lance Twiggs involved? It's possible that both of them were. It's possible. And they may have, I don't know if they were on the payroll. They might have been. I don't know. We don't know. So I just throw that out there because it's just so damn fucking weird. But it reminded me, I've seen people on a drug called Seroquel. Seroquel is an antipsychotic. And SSRIs, some of them, I think there's just too much demonizing of those. But it does affect some people like that. They become emotionless. Seroquel, it's like completely numbs them out. Totally numbs them out. Like, they don't smile, they don't cry anymore. There's no psychotic outbreaks. There's no more anger management issues. They're just kind of numbed out. Not like a Thorazine. No, Thorazine, we used to call it, it's like the shuffling the wax, the floor waxers. It's like they just kind of shuffle with their feet, kind of waxing the floors. Thorazine is like heavy antipsychotic. I've seen people, I've had clients that were on that. And it's not a good one. But neither is Seroquel. I mean, I don't think it's healthy at all. I've never seen anybody on it, but of course I'm not a doctor with caseload. I've never seen anybody on Seroquel that actually turned out better after that experience. But what do I know? I'm not in the medical field. I'm not clinical medical. I'm not giving medical advice. I do have a bias against the Seroquel, but that's what Lance Twiggs looked like. This gum chomping, just saying kind of yes, agreeing, being coached. At one point, there's some sort of electronic glitch, and you see this woman that comes in. She's in the courtroom, but she's in this video, comes in, and she's punching something to turn something back on, or some sort of electronic glitch, and he looks over at her and he's like being coached, and then she comes in and does something to the, I don't know what the issue was, I missed that, but it's there, it's clear, and it felt very scripted, very coached, deeper voice than you would ever imagine from any of the narratives that were spun. Now, that might have been what he was coached to do. It's like, look, if you're going to make this pass, that you weren't the one that influenced Tyler, which very well to me, if they were real lovers, I question that now. But if Tyler and Lance were real homosexual lovers or trans gay lovers, whatever that is, then there would be an emotional bonding that would give incentive to Tyler to maybe make some sort of reaction on behalf of this kind of like, Romeo and Romeo instead of Romeo and Juliet scenario of, crossing over, tragic Shakespearean analogy. It's Romeo and Romeo in a Romeo and Juliet scenario. But they didn't die. And Tyler didn't want to die. And Tyler doesn't look suicidal. I don't believe at this point Tyler was suicidal at the time of this event. If he was suicidal, then he would have, I believe, like most of these other sociopathic that are hopped up on hormones and whatever, they go in and they shoot up classrooms of children. I mean, these type of psychosis, that was the Tennessee trans person. I mean, it's a repeat pattern over and over. I think right up in Montreal, was it Montreal? Canada, there was some incel that lashed out. That person disappeared into the ether. They had some sort of manifesto that was rationalizing incel type of thing against Pornhub, or who knows? I mean, there was an Israeli community there too. Was it anti-Judaism? Why did it disappear? Why did that Montreal shooting disappear? That's where the cop plugged a rabbi, because the rabbi came up and spooked out the shooting cop in a gun battle with this. You don't never walk up to a cop that's firing rounds in a gun battle. I mean, who the fuck is this rabbi? Well, rest in peace, right? I mean, the rabbi's crossed over, gone, because she blasted him. She blasted everybody except for the shooter. Who got the shooter? That was the strangest case, and it seems to have just gone completely away into the ether, which is a real red flag to me, because there's some sort of narrative they're trying to hide or alter or spin, like this case here with Utah versus Tyler Robinson. So that testimony was not helpful in anything, because it was video. It was the state objected to him being in person. The judge allowed that to happen, hearsay, without cross-examination. I mean, that created a whole support network and thread for the defense of Tyler than anything else was that bizarre testimony. And granted, it was edited out. Now, it just seemed like Lance Twiggs was just going, yes, going along with this narrative of the state I think it was done in April. I read one article that it was done in April, because I was like, was that done in September? So you had Lance Twiggs come in, suit and tie in September, days after, week after, whatever. And no, that was not jiving right. And I corrected my thinking on it, because I believe that was done in April. So it was months later. They got to kind of like polish Lance Twiggs up and say, hey, you're not trans. You're not Luna. Drop that crazy bullshit. That was like a mushroom high. That you've gotten over that. Stop that stuff, because that's going to make you seem guilty, which he does. Luna looks guilty. I actually still question, what was that role? I believe, and again, this is my bias because I don't know. I'm making speculative assumption here. I believe Lance Twiggs was working with some sort of intelligence agency as a lure, a domestic lure, and that's done quite often. The fact that they met in chat and then lured Tyler in away from the supportive Mormon, his Mormon family too. Two Mormon incels. Well, who knows about Lance Twiggs being an incel? Could be a deviant, really. But the seductor, clearly, because you're dealing with a virgin. And that's the same type of scenario you see with Erica, the older cougar that seduced St. Charlie. St. Charles was a virgin. I was stunned to hear that. When I heard that, I was like, oh my God, he hadn't had booty. He hadn't recycled through a whole bunch of sketchy type of skank type girlfriends that you jump in bed with, and then you wake up and you're like, oh fuck, I got to be polite, but I got to get the fuck out of this place. And I'll call you, don't call me. I mean, we've all been, well, not everybody's been there, but I certainly am empathetic to that type of situation, especially back when I was drinking. You end up hooking up in over drinks with people with low light and the effects of alcohol you would not have done if you were sober with bright light. So, and I'm not trying to be rude or a dick, but it is what it is. I mean, I could write a book. I'm actually working on a book about an idiot's guide, everything you wanted to know about women and from dating to marrying, So I'm not an expert on marriage, all right, but I certainly do know women. I mean, growing up in a household of sisters, no brothers. Well, my dad had a couple of sons. Well, he married a woman they weren't even his sons, I'd see them in the summer for a little bit. So my main house was sisters and a single mom. I grew up in that type of environment. I understand women, and I understand the mistakes I've made. I understand how to avoid things, and I understand sometimes, especially if your emotions get into something. A virgin, they never forget their first lovers, especially if it's like a seductress cougar like Erica Kirk, who lied about being celibate for years, and we find out that there's all these dudes, including people that were involved in TPUSA, including friends of Charlie's. She lied about all of that. I mean, you lose all credibility. And that was before it was exposed that she was working with the Epsteins. She was working in New York for Jeffrey Epstein's brother and Jeffrey indirectly there with modeling agencies. I forget the name of the modeling agency, but she was housing the teens that were going to be preyed on, soon to be preyed on. I'm not sure exactly which ones, what kind of selective process they go through, like a pageant, right? You got a little pageant of these teens, you're housing them in an apartment. That's what Erica Kirk was doing. That was her real estate experience in New York. That came out through the investigative reporting of Candace. And it's never been disputed because it's factual. The factual stuff was not disputed. It was the speculative stuff that they pounced on and then spun that out into the media, ridiculing her and calling her an insane crazy bitch over and over and over and over again, and letting their little peons. Now that leads me to, how long has this been? Almost an hour? I'm going to try to wrap this up. That leads me to another really significant final thought on this whole last week, and ending on this horrific note. TPUSA with Jack Powoziak, I can't get his name quite right. He's a Navy intel, and he was with Tim Pool all the time. When I watched Tim Pool, I thought, when he first started out, I thought he was genuine. I didn't realize he was going to sell his soul to Satan. Well, Jack was right there navigating Tim Pool to sell his soul to Satan. Jack Poziak, whatever the fuck his last name is, he was a part of the original crew that started the QAnon trust campaign. Whoever came in and took over it, I know there was some sort of shuffling. I'm not totally sure. But I know that for a fact because that was indirectly came out of some of the InfoWars Alex Jones. He was also on InfoWars as a regular fucking operative, controlling narratives all the way back to the Epstein files. So, and you see Jack holding up the white binder that says Epstein files in this total psyops. And it's like, wow, we've got all the intel. We're the inside people. We just came out of the White House. We've got the goods. That was Jack. He was a part of that whole Liz Wheeler, that whole inside clusterfuck. There was dozens and dozens of people. the media, the ex-influencers, the social media influencers that they manipulated and used to suppress the real X-File. All that information that was in that white binder was already public. There was nothing new in there because they were going to bury any of the new, all the names, people that are around, like Lutnick, right? Like Howard Lutnick, who was in a condo in New York, moved in and bought a condo next to Jeffrey Epstein and lived next to Jeffrey Epstein for years, who's now in the White House advising President Trump. That Lutnick, okay? We got him down in pictures with his sons because he brought his young sons down to the sex death cult island, Jeffrey Epstein. There's pictures of him there with his sons overlooking the beautiful bay or island landscape. That guy, okay? So you've got serious players that were right there that the names were not going to be released because I believe, this is just my personal opinion, of course, all this is my commentary. I'm not saying any of this is factual. None of it should be taken as factual. It's my interpretation of the data that I have gleaned and grifted off of it. Not grifting is a bad word, but pulled off of, because I don't do anything for money, all right? I'm doing this for the truth. But that's very significant to me, these connections and these operatives. Jack comes out, back to the courtroom drama. They argue that let's not let the public see this zoomed in, altered video, because I believe the judge originally was a part of rejecting it. He was trying to split the bathwater there with the baby. It was like, trying to, and he would say it. I mean, the judge would say, I'm just trying to narrow the margins here and shorten our testimony, and I'm trying to get both parties happy. He would say things like this. That's not a verbatim, but that was his general. He would say things like that. Not exactly like that, but very similar to that. And so he allowed, or eventually, this is the last day. I think this must have been Friday. And that emotional asset attorney came in arguing, well, Erica, the family deserves to see this, blah, 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 blah. And out of nowhere on the last day, it was packed full of TPUSA independent journalists, propagandists, state propagandists were in the courtroom. They weren't there for Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, or maybe a couple of them were, but the courtroom was packed with these operatives that Jack had his fingers in that were connected to the FedSlop narratives, connected to TPUSA directly, like Jack is. Jack's an advisor on the board, TPUSA. Navy intel, right? Everybody's fucking military intel. All the people that are promoting this, let's not talk about Mossad. Let's not talk about IDF. Ha, 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 ha. Egyptian airplanes. Ha, 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 ha. You silly little peons. All these people, those were the people that were connected to this little operation here at the end. So they convinced the judge to play this altered, zoomed in, enhanced video just to the court, not the public. It didn't get the public showing. It was just viewed in the courtroom for supposedly the family, because the family wants to be traumatized more. This is the same family that the emotional asset attorney was arguing they had a right to see this sniper up there shooting. This is the same family on day one that Erica escorted out. She's all upset. You see her on camera coming out with the family. They all leave right away because they couldn't handle the sheriff talking about investigative procedures. Not even video. None of the public video that we have seen on loop, on replay, day after day after day, over and over, viral around the world, 100,000 times this Spider-Man running off. We didn't get to see the beginning. So there was this, Jack comes out and goes on all the media tour and says, the courtroom has seen that this never seen before in high definition 4K video, because everything's blurry and grainy and crap. All the video, all this shit, just like UFOs, right? Just like 30 years of UFOs, they're grainy. They could be a flock of seagulls, and you got people saying that's a line of UFOs. Oh, the Tic Tac. Oh my God! And it's like, just shut the fuck up with the UFO crap. And you guys are just so full of shit. And Jack's on the War Room, or they're playing the front lines. He's right on cue. There they are in the War Room playing Jack. And Jack is like, got his suit and tie and all this, and he's ready to just let the truth be known. They saw this video. It's undisputed. The family's traumatized. The people that saw it are crying now. And they're on X crying, saying that they saw it. It's undisputable. You can see Tyler in 4K. You see him go up in the little tripod sniper nest. You see him set it up, and you see him pull the trigger, and you see him hit Charlie. It's so disturbing and emotional. It's just, as you know, it's best that it probably wasn't shown to the public. It's best that it probably wasn't shown to anyone else, but this little select, hand-picked little influencer group that's all dishing out Fed slop, TPUSA nonsense, with no investigation of any other leads or any other players or any other teamwork that possibly could have been involved in setting up this little autistic gay furry lover sniper who's, you know, you look at his target practice, and it looks like something my cat could have probably shot better at the target circle than this dumb nuts that they're framing. Paul, God bless you, Paul. I'm not gonna love it. Paul, 8935. So you don't believe in UFOs? Here I am. I'm freestyle spitting. I'm spitting on the Tyler case. And Paul, I love you, brother. I love you. Yes, I do believe in UFOs. You know, don't derail me on that. I'll talk about it if you want. But yes, I believe in UFOs. I take real issue. There's a video I did just a couple videos back. I don't do very many videos. I'll do like a video every couple of weeks. But I totally broke down the Nephilim theory that UFOs are demons, Nephilim, fallen angels, and there's that going around. There's this Christian gag reflex that's coming out against the kind of Spielberg UFO disclosure. And I don't know if you caught that, but it was very dramatic. And I caught a bunch. I'm firsthand, because I watch a bunch of streamers that talk about UFOs and UAPs and all this false disclosure and making them hostile. And we got to go to war with War of the Worlds. We got to go to war with these fucking green men because they're going to take over. They're over our nuclear facilities. We got to blast these fucking aliens. No. They're definitely peaceful, or they would have kicked our fucking ass long ago. They got higher tech. I believe they're real. I also believe that the chances of them coming from the depths of the ocean are greater than them doing time travel out in space. But I'm not ruling that out, because they could have at one point done the time travel, or they could even be using portals. I also believe in portals, and I believe in all kinds of things that a lot of people don't believe in around this type of stuff. I don't care that it makes me look like a conspiracy nut, but it's the UFOs. Well, technically, a UFO, unidentified flying object, there's nothing to dispute. But I know what you mean by that question. I mean, every unidentified, that's the flock of seagulls, right? That's unidentified flying objects. All these blurry Tic Tacs, those are unidentified flying objects. I believe in what you mean is the extraterrestrials. Intelligent life. I also think that it could be in Scripture. And I don't think they were fallen angels. I don't think they're demons, although they could have been perceived that way by ancient times. And you've got reference to it in multiple places in the Bible. And I go through that on my video. I think it was a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, and I don't remember the exact date, but it's Nephilim. The reference is Nephilim. Nephilim is literally means the fallen ones. Fallen ones. So, but there's also the Hebrew interpretation is a little bit different. And so, but, you know, the people that are questioning the Fed slop narratives, this lone gunman, I mean, look at JFK. I mean, they had their patsy set up there, the lone gunman. We know now. Do we know now? We do know now, but really, that it was not. It was a team effort. It was an inside government hit. We also know now that there's extensive Israeli intelligence Mossad operatives in hits. We know that from last year when we had thousands of pagers that were exploding. That's what fueled the exploding mic theory. That Candace did not originate with that. That was another guy. I think his name was John. I follow him on X. He's the one that presented it and emailed it to Candace. And Candace she's simply just presenting things that she has sent. She's not saying that all of this is written in gold. I think she comes on this afternoon. She might be on now. I don't know. It seems like I would have gotten an alert. I believe she's coming on today to kind of, because she had some vicious back and forth with Andrew Colvert and with TPUSA. I mean, it's been ongoing for quite a while, but there was a vicious attack saying that St. Charles never liked Candace and all this crap. I mean, that to me tells me that TPUSA is lying through their teeth. Sorry, not sorry. When you have that kind of visceral, when you, like me, studying psychology and the psychoanalysis, I overread people. I mean, I get way up into, I probably overread people too much, but it's my nature. It's not just me. There's a lot of people that do. They look for how people hold their hands, you know, like the people that, like me, that talk with their hands. They're passionate and they're trying to, they do all this psychoanalysis of things like this. I've heard psychoanalysis from Lance Twiggs' video. There's a couple of guys that do very calm demeanor, scientific body language. I'm a clinical psychologist, but this is not a clinical psychological evaluation, these type of guys. And they were going into saying things how Tyler looks down and blinks. So they even get down to, I'm serious, they even get down to the blinking. If you're blinking, also when people look up, which I catch myself doing that sometimes. Anytime I see someone on video do that, I'm always like, what the fuck are they looking for up there? It's like they're looking for their memory in their brain, and they look up like almost like God or somebody is going to help with that memory. What was that? What date was that? Was that 23 or 24? So it's fun. I do the same thing actually. But there is body language people that break it down. And there was kind of some, nothing conclusive, but there was couple different people. I can't remember their exact names right offhand, but I'm not trying to, I would give it, if I'd pitch them, if I knew their channel name right offhand, but you can find them. It's not hard to search stuff on YouTube. They were talking about just the demeanor. For me, it was that Sarah Quill SSR type of glossed over from Lance Twiggs. It told me that he was not being honest. It was a veneer. Whatever dirty work that he's been doing, digging in concrete work and ditches. I did that when I was young, before my back and body went south, totally shit out on me. Cartilage is gone in between my vertebrae. It's like I'm just one wrong slip or injury, I'm going to have probably a major situation on my back where it could even entail metal and screws. And it's interesting because St. Charlie was talking about severe back injuries like that too, but I digress. And he was much younger than me. I'm in my 50s now. But man, when it hits you in your 30s, that's got to be a fucking stinger, right? Who doesn't have back problems? But my point was, I digress. I'm rambling a little bit. Is that if he was doing, the brickwork, the masonry work, that 33-degree masonry work, right? If they were doing that, because Tyler, both of them allegedly or reportedly were doing that. Well, you don't wear a suit and tie for that. There was no business work of any kind that Lance Twiggs was doing. You know, did they go buy it for him special for that interview? Probably. I would be surprised if he had a jacket and a tie in that condo, in that psychedelics mushroom mycelium fungus growing condo that his parents were paying for. Be very surprised, but who knows? I mean, I've got jackets. I don't work. I mean, I'm an oil painter. I mean, I got jackets. I can, just because I know that a jacket goes a long ways when you put it on and just get cleaned up. It's an easy thing to do. Put a smoking jacket on. You'll never catch me in a tie. I don't own a tie. I don't think I've ever wore a tie in my life. I get that feeling about Lance Twiggs, and I kind of get that feeling. Don't you get that feeling by Tyler Robinson? Could be wrong again. Maybe for graduation, you know. I mean, that there is people that one occasion on a graduation will wear a jacket, wear a tie, or like a tuxedo. I don't own a tuxedo, but people wear that one tuxedo on that one wedding. At special request from that special person or family member, you'll do that. But you know, it's just kind of it's an interesting dynamics of how scripted and just emotionless that from, and again, that tainted Turkey Tom video that's tainted my opinion of this crying, emotional, on black market hormones, massive experimentation. Who knows what kind of prescripts? There was some sort of an email or something somewhere. Was that for Lance? I think it was for Lance Twiggs, but it was talking about we would give him money for his prescripts. I believe that was from his mother, his family, because they were concerned about him. They thought he was demon possessed, and it could be. I mean, certainly you didn't see a demon there in that deposition with the jacket for the state prosecution. He didn't see, you know, he had that little demon hidden if that was real demon possession. Or maybe, you know, he prayed to Jesus and Jesus came and just beat that little devil right out of him. Because that happens. And I'm being serious. It sounds nuts, but, you know, sometimes you can have demons beaten out of people. Or, you know, the power of God. You say, in the name of Jesus, you know, get behind me, Satan. And often bad spirits will, you know, if they don't punch you in the head, they're going to run. They're going to flee. No, I don't know. Either you never know. It's I used to have this one idea where it wasn't an idea. It was actually a technique that when I was in trouble, I would use it at a bus stop, you know, and when I had a psychotic person on the platform, I would do what's called a Chuck Norris. Or a Bruce Lee, because Bruce Lee's kind of cool too. But Bruce Lee was like, you know, you would hear this little bit of a moaning, kind of groaning type of. Bruce Lee was kind of famous for making the sounds. Chuck Norris, it was more of just assuming your position and then a squat, wide stance, and then you squat. Like you're sending the signal. Your body language is, I'm a trained jiu-jitsu expert. Okay? I'm a professional. And if you're ready to go, I love this shit. I'm ready to go too. You know, and then if you're going to say anything like a noise, then it's more of a Bruce Lee type of stance. But sometimes it works. If it works and you kind of make people nervous and you kind of, walk away or kind of de-escalate, you still got to wait for your max train to come, you know, and you still got that kind of awkward few minutes before you can actually get out of there. And then it's a gamble. It's a Kenny Rogers song I've mentioned before, where you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away. I mean, you got to know when to run. I mean, there's a time if you want to stay alive, don't let your ego keep you from running the fuck out of the situation. Because it might mean your survival. You know, you get out of there quick. So, and they could attack you. And I have had people where they didn't care about the Chuck Norris. I could have done all the Bruce Lee sounds in the world, and it wouldn't have mattered about anything, man. They probably would have pulled out some nunchucks themselves and go, oh yeah, I watched all the Fists of Fury. I watched all the same shit, brother. And then you got to get the fuck out of there. if you didn't scare him with the Chuck Norris, man, you gotta fucking go. But I digress. So I think that's my summary on it. I didn't want to go on and on and on forever, but I don't know if I'm forgetting it. I'm sure there's some other little details. There was some things like the whole DNA analysis. It exposed that Lance Twiggs' DNA was all over everything, on the gun, on the screwdriver, on the towel. So you're going to say, oh, so what? They shared a condo together and they handled the rifle together. It's possible that Lance Twiggs had shot that grandpa's rifle. Where was that? Was that taken from grandpa? Grandpa had loaned it. So it was in the condo. You could say it was in the condo. It was grandpa's rifle, which didn't look like a World War II. No, not at all. And one of the things that I saw Barron, the attorney guy, Barron, and listen, go to his channel, just like Ian Carroll is like, I'm not going to get into all these details. Just go listen to Barron. This guy is like, he's got the legal mind of a steel trap. He completely breaks all of it down in much better way than I could possibly ever say it. And I feel the same way. There's nothing more that could be said than how Barron breaks this down. He's got the legal mind because he's it's his mind. It's an attorney like that. But he brought up a couple of really good points on his last video. I saw that one, I think this morning, or was it last night? I think it was this morning. And he talks about the bullet, the fragments. So first of all, a soft tip, Valhalla VHF, I don't know. He started kind of doing videos with Paramount, Tactical. And then when that guy got bought out and flipped his script, and he was like, he went from saying, yeah, it's state actors and could be Israel. That was Gary at one point from Paramount Tactical. And then he just completely flipped and rolled over and got DOD contracts, which, DOD contracts, money will always persuade you. But, to each their own. I liked Gary in the beginning. I actually watched him until he went that way. And then he flipped and I was like, oh, you fucking douchebag. And I quit watching. But now we still deal with him because he's viciously attacking Candace and all of her viewers, and so, which is like 6 million people. So, but what was I going to say? The bullet. Okay. Oh yeah, the soft point. Valhalla, who's Green Beret. So it's so funny when you got people questioning Green Beret that are gun nuts and in the business of shooting and killing people legally. I wouldn't question those guys, but everybody needs to be. There's some that are going to be bad operatives. But he says a soft tip. If that's what it was, he claims that's what it was reported to be in. The soft tip is designed to stay whole, stay together, and then expand and create a large hole. I think if I understood him. I'm not a gun expert. I have shot 30-06. I have been hunting with it. The first time I held one of those, I was like 6 or 7. My dad wanted me to go hunting with him, and I remember my mom just hysterically freaking out and screaming, he's just a kid. And I don't think I ever shot that. I had a BB gun instead. That was after Mom's strong objections. I never went hunting as a kid, but not that I recall. There was anyway. I digress. It doesn't matter. I have shot 30-06, and it's a serious rifle. I actually bruise every time that I've shot it. I have bruises all over my shoulder. So am I holding it too tight? Or it's that recoil that's kind of it's a huge fucking gun, man. It's not a pistol. I've shot pistols. It's nothing like that. You're holding that on your shoulder to brace it, and you got to make sure you look through the scope right, because it'll cut a fucking gash into your goddamn eyeball, into your eyebrow. The scope will, from the kickback, the recoil. So the soft tip, let me digress. The soft tip does not fragment. And that was one thing the Fed sloppers, including Gary, Paramount Tactical, you watch his video and he's got, a barrage of weapons behind him up on the rack. Like I've got paintings, Gary's got weapons up there. And he says there's the fragmental round or whatever, those fragment, and now there's fragments that they are saying there's fragments. So that does, on the one side, that does kind of help explain multiple vertebrae if there was the fragmentation. It wasn't that one lone bullet that would zigzag around that came through, and then if it exploded or fragmented, however those fragmented rounds, but they're saying that it wasn't a fragmental round. So why is there all these fragments? Well, Barron points out that under the testimony of the stand of the specialist says that there was several fragments. And Barron says, where did all the rest of the fragments from the bullet jacket casing go? Because there's only 4. There's 4 that were put in this manila, her testimony on the stand, the specialist, that were put in a little sealable manila envelope. 4 rounds. So where did the 7 rounds that were pulled out by the medical examiner under the medical examiner's test? Did he testify? I don't know if we got the medical examiner's testimony. Did we? That would be pretty important. There was a report. So I don't know if somebody from the office, there was so many different witnesses on so many days. I started to get fatigue. I ended up getting preliminary hearing fatigue, man. And like I said, from the beginning, I didn't even watch the 5th day completely. I couldn't handle any more of that fucking droning on about DNA samples not hitting or maybe a hit and all this. It created more. A jury, if my head's going to spin and my eyes are going to roll up in my head, and I'm going to go like, oy vey. A jury, there's going to be somebody on the jury that's going to feel the same way. If they're going to rely on that shoddy DNA evidence that has Tyler and has Lance Twiggs all over it, you're going to get it tossed. So, however you fall on this, that's my take on that. But the round, there's something missing. There's, I think, 3 fragments that are missing. Why? Who tampered with that? Is that the same people that brought the rifle in after the fact because they had gunpowder sniffing dogs all over that area trying to follow the scent? They couldn't follow allegedly Tyler's scent. They couldn't follow. He probably got in a car, right? Doesn't that tell you he got in a car and drove away? And that's where the scent's going to stop. Am I wrong? Not a specialist in gunpowder sniffing dogs, but that makes sense from what little I understand. So you've got this dynamic with why didn't the dogs, if that rifle that they claim, this alleged grandpa's World War II, clearly it wasn't. It was a Walmart deluxe special, whatever the fuck that, bolt action. It was a bolt action. I recognize that. I've shot with bolt action, 30-06. But I had the actual wood furniture. My dad's rifle probably was an authentic World War II rifle. I mean, looking back, because that would have been in like 80s, right? Because I'm Gen X, that would have been, so, and it was wood. I remember very, very clearly. It was old school bolt action. But I don't know for sure exactly if it was an actual World War II, but I do know for a fact that the World War II were not synthetic plastic. They were not, they were wood. And I've heard the gun guys talk and call that furniture. So the rifle furniture, if it's, you got wood furniture, that's what I've heard it. I didn't grow up using that term, but I've heard these guys refer to the furniture on a rifle as furniture. And it's wood. There's no synthetic plastics. There's no Walmart deluxe. There's none of that fucking shit that rifle is. There were some, jackass fed sloppers that are like, well, you can change that out. And I'm like, so it makes it a World War II just because the barrel, and you've changed everything else, but just the barrel is supposed to come from World War II. That's no longer a World War II heirloom. That's no longer an antique. You've now turned it into a Walmart deluxe special with synthetic plastic jacking. That's my opinion. I'm not a gun expert, but anyway, I've talked too much, man. When I'm start getting thirsty, I know that I've already gone on too long. So I think that's it. That's huge, though. Barron points that out. Go watch his video. Go watch all of his shit. That guy makes the best arguments because he's used to making arguments in court. He knows exactly how to clear and present the case. Although he does this weird glitch, like he's got this weird edit thing. I don't know if he does that on purpose to make it more interesting, but it makes me feel like it's got too many edits and he's not being authentic. But I know that he is. But when I see people glitching like that in the edits, it's kind of like, no, just freestyle. Just present it. No edits, no glitches, no weird little in and out movements like where it's coming back. I don't know. It's just me, though. It's just me. To each their own. And then so I think I addressed Lance Twiggs. I spoke about my feelings that he's an asset operative of some kind, maybe professional. And that's what they lures do. We see that over and over and over again. The list is so long. I've forgotten all the names, but there was the Buffalo shooter, Crooks in Butler, little Tommy Crooks, the similar autistic incel, high IQ, just like Tyler, high IQ incel, lonely, antisocial type of somebody makes them feel important. Somebody gives them a mission. And then in Tommy Crooks, down in Butler with the Trump hit or attempted hit, they had somebody, which it's DHS signed in. Somebody was signing in DHS into the books of the local exclusive elitist gun club. And then we also have, with Crooks, we've also got similar chats, and we have talking to people that are like Belgium, Brussels, I don't know, who knows exactly. With VPNs, it could have gone straight to Tel Aviv. Not that I'm saying that it did go to Tel Aviv. It could have easily gone to Pakistan, or the rumors were is that Iranian assets, or I guess there was some other Iranian guy that was trying to whack that they stopped him. That one was really sketchy too, because he technically was like Pakistani and his wife was Iranian. It was like, it wasn't even directly Iranian. I mean, it just felt like classic setup for a psyops, which we're hearing right now with the Senator Lindsey Graham. I'm not going to crack open that. I've been an hour and a half, but it did cross my mind to talk about that briefly because, but they're trying to blame that, saying that it was Russia. Russia poisoned him. Then I heard Russia blew him up. Then Larry Johnson, I had heard him talking or referencing something before InfoWars. Alex Jones this morning gets in and goes, Larry. I've had Larry on the show. And Larry Johnson, ex-CIA, is a very credible. I mean, you ever listen to him, and he's got that voice, very stoic, kind of like, not Clint Eastwood-ish, but more like I was thinking John Wayne, like a bearded John Wayne, just really just stoic kind of. And he doesn't make shit up. He doesn't say shit that's not true. If he has an opinion, then it's just opinion without fact from his sources. But being an ex-CIA guy, he actually made a reference to there is a leak from the Pentagon, probably a frame job for a false flag to encourage some sort of bizarre, unfortunate thermonuclear warhead attack on Moscow of some kind. I hope not. We don't need a mutually assured destruction type of scenario here. Our children need to have radiation-free produce. It's bad enough that we've got some sort of weird parasite popping up all over the country on our fresh fruit and vegetables, wouldn't you say? Or the ticks that are somehow making our children allergic to red meat and meat products. I think we've got enough of this crazy shit going on and around, right? Then we don't need radiation added to the fresh spinach, salad, and broccoli. If you ask me, right? That's just my take on it. I think most of you would agree with me. The less radiation in our food supply, the better we all are as a collective whole here on Earth. But it feels like it's kind of fueling and feeding into this narrative. I think, who was it? Well, she's always saying there's crazy batshit regular ex-contributors first saying it was Russia, and then was spraying yesterday that Iran had admitted to it. I don't know if that was a joke or not. Apparently Iran did a Lego commercial, which they've been doing. They've been punking, trolling the trollers type of TPSU USA tactics, right? Where they come out and they make a total fabricated video and say it's legitimate. That's what TPUSA did. Well, at least Iran is doing cartoons, right? It's hard to say the cartoon is a real actual thing that happened, right? A little different than making up lies and doing fake videos and claiming it's fake things that St. Charles said, which he never said. But, they've got them doing some samurai Lego guy comes in and takes out somebody that looks an awful lot like Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham. If you haven't seen that, I'm sure it'll be making the rounds. That Iran released that awfully quick. Of course, with AI, it just takes the punch of a little text prompt, and you've got Legos. Lindsey Graham is a Lego, and some sort of sniper. What's interesting about that is it checks off Graham, and then it's didn't check off, but it's got Laura, as in the Loomer girl, on the list. So, I mean, it's like, I can't imagine how she feels about that. She's been calling for assassinations or to nuke Iran. She regularly posts, just nuke Iran and get rid of these Muslims. How does she feel now that actually a state put her on the checklist of next to have a Lego ninja come for her? Again, I don't think they did it. I think it's trolling. And I think that anything coming out of the Pentagon or DOD is instigating World War IV, which we're already in the middle of. It's an escalation of World War IV. Yes, 4, not 3. 3 already happened. Is that my button flashing? Wow, that was weird. Thought I had a laser pinned to my chest there. I'm like, what the fuck? All right, I'm checking out. I see I lost everybody. Paul was the last one. So you don't believe in UFOs? I can tell you haven't been following the Tyler case, bro. I'm spraying about the Utah versus Tyler. But yeah, I did mention UFOs. It's fair game. It's funny. I thought it was hilarious. Anyway, I'm checking out. Be safe, man. Talk to you soon.